Now that we've decided to live in this big house together, could you move somewhere else? Are you planning on staying here just for the inheritance? Your actions are unbelievable. I'd rather you leave as soon as possible. My sister and her husband said this to me with cold looks, even though I had been taking good care of their father. In the end, he sided with my sister. Well, if that's the case, I can't take the things I bought with my own money. Right, they told me. Do whatever you want. It's not our concern. I slowly packed up the things I bought. But then I noticed something. Why had all the furniture and appliances disappeared? My name is Noah. I'm 30 years old, and I work at a company in the city. My relationship with my family has always been difficult, especially with my sister, Lisa. We fought over many things. To be honest, I've always felt like an outsider in my own family. Lisa, who's 2 years older than me, has always been the favorite, and I never understood why. The main reason for this favoritism was because Lisa was incredibly beautiful. She was also really talented at playing the piano and had won many awards in competitions. Our music-loving parents were very proud of her. Lisa had a lot of potential to become a top pianist, and her piano teacher always praised her. One day, she was discovered for her talent and started modeling for kids in the city. So, most of our family conversations were about Lisa's modeling work and her photo shoots. Everywhere she went, people noticed her. She was the center of attention, and it seemed like everyone was excited about her future. I understood that Lisa had a special talent and beauty, but it also made me feel like my parents' love for her was blind and unfair. She received so much praise, which made sense because the entertainment world favors those with looks and talent. Lisa had a real chance to stand out. Even in such a tough industry, my parents bought her anything she wanted: new clothes, toys, anything fashionable or popular. She had it all. On the other hand, I usually got things my sister got bored with or lost interest in. Sometimes, I would see other kids at school with trendy items, but I could only get them once my sister had lost interest and the trend had faded. Because of this, it was hard for me to join in on conversations at school, and I spent a lot of time alone. Fortunately, there weren't any cruel students who made me feel more isolated, so my school life wasn't too difficult. But even when I moved on to middle school, my parents kept treating my sister like she was the special one. During this time, Lisa became more beautiful every day and got many modeling offers. Although her piano competition rankings dropped a little, she still did well overall. However, I started to notice that my sister was becoming more self-centered and naive. She was always being praised, so she started to think everything should go her way. She also became colder and sometimes even hostile towards me. She once said, "It's embarrassing to think I have a sister like you. I don't want to be seen with you at school." It seemed like she didn't want anyone to know we were sisters, and she ignored me as if I didn't exist. To make things worse, our parents completely sided with her. Lisa told them, "You must never speak to her at school. I don't want any trouble." So, my parents told me to stay away from her. They even warned me to avoid causing any problems for her. Since our grades were different, we didn't interact much at school anyway. Being scolded all the time by my parents was really hurtful, especially since we were both their children. I couldn't understand why they didn't love me as much as my sister. I started to feel like I didn't matter in the family. With these feelings, my life as a middle school student began. Since I was young, I always had a strong attitude toward learning, and because of that, I did well in school. On the other hand, while Lisa was very talented in piano, she wasn't great at schoolwork. Still, she managed to get into a private high school. When my parents found out, they were so happy and celebrated her acceptance. Later, I also got into one of the best public high schools in our area. I hoped that my parents would praise me, but instead, all their attention stayed on Lisa. In that situation, I tried to find my own worth by focusing even more on my studies, but at home, my efforts weren't appreciated. My sister would criticize me, saying, "You're all about studying, you don't even wear makeup." I can't believe we're sisters. She was proud of winning first place in a university beauty contest and would often show it off to make herself feel superior. my parents sided with her and began criticizing me even more, saying things like, "Do you have any feminine traits? You're just always studying. Do you think you're smart just because you study all the time? We don't want people to think you're our daughter with Lisa around." These harsh words became a regular part of my life. I got so used to them that they started to numb me, and I began to care less about my sister. By the time high school ended, Lisa had given up on her piano career and her modeling jobs were fewer. Her career, which once shone brightly, was now fading, and she ended up repeating a year in college because she was not focused. Watching her life take this turn made me feel like she was losing her way. Meanwhile, I stayed focused on my goals. I kept telling myself that if I worked hard, I would lead a successful, happy life. Unlike my sister, I kept encouraging myself, and that gave me the strength to stay true to who I was. After years in this harsh family environment, the time finally came when I had to prepare for the college entrance exams. My goal was to get into a prestigious national or public university. However, when I told my parents about my plans, something unexpected happened. I carefully showed them the university materials I was interested in, but my mother's reaction was shocking. She said, "The idea of you going to university is unacceptable. Why should we pay for your tuition? Besides, Lisa had to extend her college for a year, so we can't afford to send you to university too. If you want to go, you need to find scholarships on your own." I couldn't believe it. I was deeply shocked and didn't know how to respond. It felt like my parents only cared about my sister. But despite this, I didn't give up. I started looking for universities that offer scholarships and decided to pursue my education there. While I couldn't go to the university I dreamed of, I was grateful to start my new life as a college student. I also decided to work part-time to support myself. I wanted to experience the real world and hoped to leave home soon and build my own life. At home, I felt excluded, while my parents and sister shared happy moments without me. However, things didn't go as planned. One day, my father suddenly asked, "Do you plan to live here forever? You're earning money now from your part-time job, and it's unreasonable not to contribute to the household." I was surprised by his words. I replied, "I want to become independent and live on my own." But my father's attitude changed, and he said, "That's not acceptable. Have you ever thought about how much support we've given you, especially for your education and living expenses? Now that you have a part-time job, you should help with the household expenses. If you want to live outside, you'll have to pay a fixed amount each month." I couldn't understand how I could manage the house's financial burden with just my part-time job as a student. It seemed impossible. So, I had no choice but to keep living with my family for a while longer. Surprisingly, my sister didn't contribute anything to the household expenses. She received an allowance from our parents and lived her life without worrying about money. As I was about to finish college, I really wanted to move out and live on my own. But my hopes were crushed. My father told me, "Until you pay back the school fees from high school, don't even think about living on your own." These words made me feel stuck once again. Meanwhile, I saw my sister living independently, fully supported by our parents. She was able to live on her own, while I was still stuck at home. To make things worse, I found out that my sister worked a night job and received expensive gifts like branded items from men. Her lifestyle was supported by our parents and gifts from this man. I was shocked and upset by how unfair everything was, but I didn't want to give up on my dreams. I believed that even if life was hard, one day things would get better. I kept going with that hope in my heart. However, when I was 28, my belief was tested. My mother, who had been sick for a long time, passed away peacefully. I had expected her health to get worse because she was always weak and had been ill for years. My father and sister were very sad about her death, but I didn't feel anything because I didn't express my emotions. My father and sister called me heartless, but I didn't care. A year after my mother's death, another problem came up. My father's legs and back became very weak, and he had trouble taking care of himself. When I told my sister, who had just gotten married, she didn't seem to care. She said, "I can take care of Dad right now. Since you're always at home, you should take care of him." Try to be more responsible. I was disappointed by her cold response, so I decided to stop hoping she would help and agreed to take care of my father. However, caring for him wasn't easy. He constantly complained and made demands. He would say things like, "Make the water cooler, I like it that way," or "Why are you so clumsy? Respond quicker when I ask for something." My job kept me busy every day, so I hired a professional caregiver to help. During the day, I could afford to hire help, but paying for help on nights and weekends was too expensive. So, I took on the caregiving duties myself during those times. My father didn't seem to appreciate what I was doing for him. Instead, he took it for granted. Then, one day, a big change happened. My sister and her husband suddenly came to the house and said, "We want to live here from now on. You need to find somewhere else to live." I was shocked and confused. "Why are you saying this all of a sudden?" I asked. My sister gave an answer that left me speechless. "Aren't you just living here to get our mother's inheritance?" she accused. "What inheritance? What are you talking about?" I said, still confused, but she continued, "Stop pretending you don't know. You're just staying here to get the inheritance, pretending to take care of Dad. It's infuriating." I had no idea how to respond to her accusations. She added, "I can't stand seeing you here, having an easy time. Leave now." It felt like they were trying to force me out. Even my father, who was there, agreed with my sister without thinking twice. "I agree with Lisa. If you stay, we might lose our valuables," he said. I couldn't believe it. After everything I had done to take care of him, my father sided with my sister. I was stunned. But at the same time, I felt a strange sense of relief. The idea of leaving this house made me feel like I was finally free. I said, "Okay, I can't take the things I bought myself." "Right." My sister and her husband, looking pleased, said I could take whatever I wanted. I left the house and went to a real estate agent to find a new place. Soon, I found a perfect place and signed the contract right away. I took all the things I had bought with me and moved out. After settling into my new place, I called my sister and, with a bit of sarcasm, said, "You managed this faster than I thought, just like you always do." She laughed, then coldly said, "Don't come around here anymore. Let's cut ties as a family." Then, she hung up the phone. I had no intention of going back, so this was actually a relief for me. About a week later, I got a call from my sister. "Lisa, what's going on? Why is all the furniture and appliances gone?" she asked, sounding shocked and panicked. I replied, "Well, I bought all of them, so I took them with me." She was upset and said, "You can't just do that." I explained, "Didn't you say it was okay to take them? I bought everything after Mom passed away, and I replaced most of the things in the house. I thought Dad paid for them with Mom's inheritance." She was surprised and said, "What do you mean? There was no inheritance from Mom. I paid for everything, including the new furniture." She asked how I could afford such expensive appliances. With a smile, I said, "Do you know where I work now?" When I told her the name of the company I work for, she was even more surprised. "Wait, that company? I know it," she said. I proudly added, "I've worked hard, and by the time I turned 30, I was promoted to department manager. Buying high-quality appliances is no problem for me." She seemed confused and asked, "What about the car and the house?" I took a deep breath and said, "Yes, I bought those too. So, I took them back." My sister was frustrated and said, "Why didn't you tell me any of this?" I replied, "It's not my problem. You all kicked me out of the house. Besides, isn't your husband a businessman? Surely he can buy new appliances and a car." She became quiet and said, "My husband's company has been struggling financially." I wasn't surprised. It seemed like they had kicked me out of the house so they could save on rent and maybe even ask my father for money. But they also thought there was more inheritance from Mom than there actually was. I said, "I understand. It might be tough, but maybe you'll have to live without appliances and a car for a while." Her face turned red, and with an angry tone, she said, "What did you say? I will never accept this. Bring the appliances back to the house right now." I was shocked and replied, "I don't think I need to return them. I bought them with my own money." Lisa's eyes started to tear up. Please, Noah, our life is really tough, she begged. She was trying to get me to change my mind, but I wasn't falling for it. If you need money so badly, why don't you sell the expensive bag you've had for years? I said. From now on, I'm cutting ties with you and Dad, so don't contact me again. Lisa raised her voice. No, wait, Noah. But I hung up the phone immediately. Luckily, Lisa didn't know my new address, so I wasn't worried about her showing up. If she tries to come to my work, I'll just call the police. I later heard from some distant relatives that Lisa, her husband, and our father sold the family home and used the money to rent a smaller apartment. But the money they got wasn't enough, and their new place was cramped. This caused a lot of arguments between them. One day, Lisa's husband left without saying anything, leaving Lisa and our father to live together. Our father's health got worse, and taking care of him became harder every day. The costs for his care went up, and Lisa couldn't handle it. She went back to her old night job, but it wasn't easy. In that job, age mattered, and younger women were more popular. Lisa struggled to get chosen for shifts and was often treated badly by the younger workers. Eventually, the stress got too much for her, and she caused an incident that got her arrested. I don't know the details, but I know she didn't have much money left. The fine from her arrest probably put her into a lot of debt. With her criminal record, it became even harder for her to find regular work. Given how bad our father's health was, I knew their situation must have been very difficult. Meanwhile, I'm enjoying my new life. I've adopted a cute cat that brings me comfort, and I'm focusing on my job, making the most of each day. Right now, I'm happy with my alone time, but someday, I'd like to meet someone special and think about dating or even marriage.